2 hours. That was exactly how long I sat on the hard metal bench at Denver International Airport before I finally accepted the truth. My coat rested neatly across my lap. My small carry-on suitcase sat right against my ankle. I checked the digital clock on the wall. 4:15 p.m. Families rushed past me, pushing luggage carts, wrapping each other in tight hugs, their faces flushed with holiday excitement. My phone sat silently in my palm. Just 2 days ago, my daughter Sarah had called me, her voice thick with panic and pleading. "Mom, fly out. We need you. The kids want you here for Thanksgiving. Please just book whatever is available." I am a sensible woman. I don't like last-minute plans, and I certainly don't like paying triple the price for a holiday flight. But she was my daughter. I dipped into my savings, packed my best sweaters, and flew out. Now I was a misplaced item at baggage claim. I thought about calling her again, but my thumb accidentally brushed the social media app on my screen. The feed refreshed. Right at the top, a new photo appeared, posted just 10 minutes ago by Sarah. My chest tightened. I tapped the image. It was a wide shot of her dining room. A massive golden turkey sat in the center of the table. Surrounding it were Sarah, her husband Mark, my 2 grandchildren, and Mark's parents. They were holding up glasses of wine, wide smiles on their faces. The caption read, "Nothing better than a full table. So grateful for family today. Happy Thanksgiving." I zoomed in on the photo. I counted the plates. 6 people. 6 plates. 6 chairs. There wasn't an empty seat waiting for a late arrival. There was no missing plate. They hadn't forgotten to pick me up due to traffic. They had simply decided they didn't need me after all. I didn't cry. I just locked my screen, the black glass reflecting my calm, steady face. I didn't call Sarah to demand an explanation. People who want you in their lives don't leave you sitting at an arrival gate on a holiday. Standing up, I smoothed the wrinkles from my slacks, grabbed the handle of my suitcase, and walked toward the exit doors. The automatic glass slid open, hitting me with a blast of a freezing Colorado air. It felt good. It woke me up. While I stood in line for a city cab, my phone finally buzzed. A text from Sarah. "Hey, Mom. So sorry things got crazy here with the turkey. Mark is leaving now to get you. See you in an hour." An hour. Adding that to the 2 hours I had already waited meant I would arrive just as they were finishing dessert. She just wanted me there to clean up the kitchen and hand out the gifts I'd bought for the kids. I slid into the back of a yellow cab. "Where to, ma'am?" the driver asked, glancing in the rearview mirror. "Any decent hotel near the airport, please," I answered. As the cab pulled away from the curb, I looked out the window at the gray highway. For years, I had been the ultimate backup plan. When Sarah and Mark wanted a free babysitter, they called. When Mark's business struggled and they needed a loan for their mortgage, I wrote the check. I had convinced myself that this was just what mothers did. You sacrifice. You support. But looking at that photo, seeing Mark's parents sitting in the chairs, I helped buy drinking wine, I probably paid for the fog finally lifted. I wasn't a mother to them anymore. I was an ATM with a pulse. My phone rang in my hand. Sarah's face flashed on the screen. I didn't decline the call. I just powered the device down completely, tossing it into my purse. The silence in the back of the cab was the most peaceful thing I had experienced all week. The hotel was a modest place, clean but dated. I checked into a room on the 3rd floor, dropped my bag, and went straight back down to the attached diner. The place smelled of strong coffee and fried potatoes. A waitress with a tired smile handed me a laminated menu. "Just you today, honey, just me." I nodded, taking a seat in a corner booth. I ordered a slice of pecan pie and a black coffee. While I waited, I pulled a small notepad and a pen from my purse. I didn't write a letter of grievances. I wrote numbers. $800 a month. Sarah's car payment. $200. Grandkids' private tutoring. $5,000. The family vacation to Hawaii they took last summer. I stared at the ink. I was a 68-year-old widow. My late husband, Thomas, had left me a comfortable life, a paid-off house, and a healthy investment portfolio. He had worked hard, so I would never have to worry. Instead of protecting that peace, I had been funding my daughter's lifestyle, believing I was securing a place in her heart. The waitress slid the pie onto my table. Happy Thanksgiving. Hope it's a good one. It is. I smiled, taking a bite. The pie was sweet, but the clarity in my mind was sharper. If Sarah could easily replace me at her dinner table, she could easily replace my income in her budget. I finished my dessert, left a $50 tip for the waitress, and walked back up to my room. I didn't turn my phone on. I didn't care how many voicemails were piling up. I opened my laptop connected to the hotel Wi-Fi and booked the first flight back to Seattle for the next morning. I was done waiting. The airport was much quieter on Friday morning. The holiday rush had settled into a slow, tired hum. I boarded my flight back to Seattle, taking a window seat. Only then did I pull my phone out and hold down the power button. The screen lit up instantly, flooded with notifications. 12 missed calls from Sarah, 5 from Mark, a string of texts. Mom, where are you? Mark is at the airport. Mom, this isn't funny. Pick up. Did you get on the wrong flight? Please call me. I'm worried. They weren't worried about my safety. They were worried because the script had changed. I had always been predictable. I was the woman who complained mildly, but ultimately went along with whatever they wanted. By vanishing, I had taken away their control. I typed a single text to Sarah. I am safe. Going home. Do not contact me right now. I hit send and immediately blocked her number along with Mark's. I didn't need to read their excuses. I already knew what they would say. It was a mix-up. Mark's parents just dropped by. The oven broke. Lies. The plane taxied down the runway and lifted into the sky. I looked down at the shrinking city of Denver. I felt a strange lightness in my chest. For the first time in 10 years, I wasn't carrying the weight of my daughter's expectations. When I landed in Seattle, it was raining. The familiar drizzle felt like a welcome home. I took a taxi back to my house, unlocked the front door, and stepped into my quiet, pristine living room. I dropped my keys on the console table, walked into the kitchen, and made myself a cup of chamomile tea. I had a lot of work to do on Monday. Monday morning arrived crisp and cold. I dressed in a sharp navy blazer, made my coffee, and sat at my home office desk. I opened my laptop and logged directly into my main banking portal. The first thing I did was navigate to the joint credit card. I had added Sarah as an authorized user 5 years ago for emergencies. Over time, emergencies had morphed into luxury groceries, spa days, and designer shoes. With 2 clicks, I removed her access. The card in her wallet was now just a useless piece of plastic. Next, I canceled the automatic monthly transfers to her checking account. The screen flashed a green check mark, transfer canceled. Then I moved to my investment accounts. Over the years, I had designated Sarah as the primary beneficiary on everything: my IRA, my brokerage accounts, the house. I opened the transfer on death settings. I deleted Sarah's name. In her place, I typed in the details of my favorite wildlife charity and my nephew, Ethan. Ethan was my late husband's brother's son. He was a hard-working mechanic, never asked for a dime, and still called me every Sunday just to chat about his garden. Finally, I printed out a standard will revocation and amendment form I found on a trusted legal site. I didn't need a fancy lawyer to complicate things. In my state, a printed document clearly stating my new beneficiaries and signed in front of a notary was perfectly valid. I drove to my local bank branch. The manager, a sweet woman named Claire, stamped and signed my documents. "Everything all right, Mrs. Owens?" Claire asked, handing back my ID. "Never better, Claire." I smiled, sliding the papers into my folder. It took less than an hour to rewrite the future. It took 3 days for the financial earthquake to hit Denver. I was in my backyard, pruning my hydrangeas when my house phone rang. I had unblocked Sarah on my cell phone the day before, anticipating the fallout, but she had chosen the landline. I pulled off my gardening gloves, walked inside, and picked up the receiver. "Mom, what is going on?" Sarah's voice wasn't worried. It was sharp and demanding. "I just tried to pay for groceries at Whole Foods and your card declined." I was so embarrassed. I poured myself a glass of water leaning against the counter. "The card didn't decline, Sarah. Your access to it was removed." Dead silence on the other end. Then a nervous laugh. "What? Why would you do that? Did your account get hacked?" "No," I answered smoothly. "I made some adjustments to my finances. I am no longer funding your household." "Is this about Thanksgiving?" She snapped, her tone shifting from confused to defensive. "Mom, you are being so dramatic. Mark got the times mixed up. We didn't mean to leave you there. You could have just waited, but instead you throw a tantrum and cut us off." "I waited 2 hours, Sarah. And while I was waiting, I saw your post. The table was full. Mark's parents were in my seat." "They surprised us," she yelled. "What was I supposed to do, kick them out?" "No," I said softly. "You were supposed to be honest. You only begged me to come because you needed me to pay for the Christmas shopping next week. You wanted my wallet, not my company." That is so unfair. It's the truth. And the bank transfers have stopped too. Budget carefully this month, Sarah. I hung up the phone before she could scream. A week later, I was sitting by the window reading a novel when a silver SUV aggressively pulled into my driveway. I didn't need to see the license plate to know it was Sarah. She slammed the car door, stomped up the front steps, and banged on the door. I placed a bookmark on my page, took a deep breath, and opened it. "You changed the locks," she accused, holding up her old silver key. "I did. 2 days ago." I nodded. "Hello, Sarah." She pushed past me into the hallway, her face red with anger. "Are you out of your mind? Mark's car payment bounced. The kids' school is asking for the tuition check. You can't just do this without warning." I closed the door calmly, turning to face her. "I don't owe you a warning. It is my money." "I am your daughter," she cried, throwing her hands up. "We rely on that money. You made a commitment to help us." I walked over to the console table, opened the drawer, and pulled out a folded piece of paper. I handed it to her. She snatched it. It was a printed screenshot of her Thanksgiving Instagram post. "Look at that photo, Sarah," I instructed. "You have a husband. You have in-laws. You have a big, beautiful house that I helped you buy. You are adults. It is time you act like it." "This is petty," she hissed, crumpling the paper. "You're doing this just to punish me for one mistake." "It wasn't a mistake," I corrected, looking her dead in the eyes. "It was a revelation. I realized I was just an accessory in your life. An accessory that pays the bills. I'm stepping down from that role." Sarah paced my living room, her chest heaving. She tried a different tactic. Her eyes filled with tears, her voice dropping into a fragile whisper. "Mom, please. We are going to drown. Mark's business isn't doing well. If you cut us off, we might lose the house. 10 years ago, that sentence would have made me reach for my checkbook immediately. I would have hugged her, wiped her tears, and told her everything would be okay. But I just stood there, my hands resting in the pockets of my cardigan. If Mark's business is failing, he needs to get a second job," I said evenly. If the house is too expensive, you need to downsize. Millions of families do it every day. She stared at me, horrified. You're really going to let us fail? I am going to let you live your own lives. I have secured my retirement. The rest is up to you. I stepped toward the front door and opened it, letting the cold December air sweep into the house. You have a long drive back to Denver. You should get on the road before it gets dark. Sarah realized in that exact moment that the well had run dry. There would be no negotiating. There would be no emotional manipulation. She grabbed her purse, walking stiffly toward the door. As she crossed the threshold, she turned back. You're going to die alone, Mom. I'd rather be alone than used, I replied. I closed the door, the heavy click of the deadbolt echoing loudly in the silent house. I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel sad. I just felt incredibly, wonderfully light. The holiday season moved forward, but my house felt entirely different. There was no stress about buying the perfect overpriced gadgets. There was no anxiety about booking flights or navigating Sarah's moods. One Sunday afternoon, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Ethan standing on the porch holding a potted poinsettia. Aunt Georgia. He smiled broadly, giving me a gentle hug. I was in the neighborhood looking at a truck for a client and thought I'd drop this off. Ethan, come in, come in. I ushered him inside. I put the kettle on and we sat at the kitchen table. He didn't ask for a loan. He didn't complain about his bills, even though I knew the mechanic shop he worked at was struggling with the winter freeze. Instead, he asked about my garden, told me a funny story about his golden retriever, and helped me fix a loose hinge on a cabinet door without me even asking. As I watched him sip his tea, I thought about the paperwork sitting in my safe. The documents that ensured when my time came, everything I had built would go to someone who actually valued people over money. Ethan. I started setting my cup down. I want you to know how much I appreciate your visits. You always show up just to be here. He looked slightly confused, wiping his hands on a napkin. Well, yeah. Your family, Aunt Georgia. Where else would I be? I smiled, a genuine warm feeling spreading through my chest. Family isn't about blood or obligation. It's about respect. Stay for dinner, I offered. I'm making a roast. Only if I can do the dishes, he replied. A year passed. I didn't speak to Sarah. She sent a few passive-aggressive texts on my birthday and Mother's Day, but I never replied. I heard through the family grapevine that she and Mark had indeed downsized to a smaller townhouse, and Sarah had gone back to work as a real estate agent. They were surviving. They didn't need me to fix their lives. They just needed me to stop enabling them. When Thanksgiving rolled around again, I didn't stand at an airport gate. I stood in my own kitchen, surrounded by the smell of roasting turkey and cinnamon apples. Ethan was in the living room, setting up a board game on the coffee table. He had brought his new girlfriend, a lovely nurse named Clara, who was currently helping me chop vegetables. My phone vibrated on the counter. A text from Sarah. Happy Thanksgiving. The kids miss you. A year ago, that message would have sent me into a spiral of guilt. I would have called her, apologized for things I didn't do, and wired money for Christmas gifts. Today, I simply swiped left and hit delete. I picked up the tray of roasted vegetables and carried it into the dining room. The table was small set for just 3 people. There was no fancy crystal, no extravagant centerpieces, and no fake smiles for social media photos. Food's ready, I called out. Ethan and Clara hurried into the room, laughing about something. They sat down, and Ethan reached out, grabbing my hand on one side and Clara's on the other. I looked at the 3 of us. It wasn't the massive crowded table from Sarah's photo. It was quiet, simple, and honest. For the first time in a very long time, I had a full house and an even fuller heart. Sometimes the absolute hardest thing a parent can do is to stop helping. We often think we are showing love by constantly being the safety net, but love should never cost you your dignity. The biggest takeaway from Georgia's story isn't just about money or changing a will. It's about recognizing your own worth. She realized that you cannot buy genuine respect, and you shouldn't have to pay for a seat at a table where you aren't truly valued. If you ever find yourself feeling like an ATM or a backup plan to the people you give your all, to remember that setting a hard boundary isn't selfish. It's self-care. It takes a lot of courage to stop fixing things for adults who need to learn how to fix things themselves. A quiet house filled with genuine peace is always better than a crowded room where you feel invisible. Have you ever had to make a tough decision to protect your own peace, even with family? I would really love to hear your thoughts and experiences, so please drop a comment below and let's talk about it. If this story resonated with you today, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more real, grounded stories about life boundaries and finding your inner strength. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next video.